Exile ran in Erik the Red's family before he ever earned the name himself. His father, Thorvald Osvaldsson, was banished from Norway for manslaughter, dragging the family to the edges of Iceland around 960 AD, a crowded, competitive frontier where good land was already scarce. Erik inherited more than his father's temper. Around 980 AD, a landslide caused by his own servants damaged a neighbor's farm. The neighbor's kinsman killed Erik's men in retaliation. Erik killed him back, along with a second man drawn into the feud, and was banished from his home at Hokkadale. He relocated west to the islands of Brokey and Exney. Peace didn't last there either. A dispute over a set of carved ceremonial beams, refused to him by a friend he'd trusted to keep them, ended with Erik forcibly reclaiming them and killing two of the man's sons in the violence that followed. The Thorsens Assembly, a real functioning Norse legal body, not mob justice, formally outlawed him. 3 years, banished from Iceland entirely. Most men in that position waited out their sentence. Erik sailed instead, west into water no map could describe, chasing a rumor. Decades earlier, a sailor named Gunnbjörn Ulfsson had glimpsed land out there and never returned to explore it. Erik went looking for it anyway, with a single ship and no guarantee anything was there at all. How he found it without a compass is itself remarkable. Modern research, published optical physics studies modeling Viking-era navigation, shows Norse sailors could hold a course using sky polarization and sunstone crystals to track the sun's position even through fog, checking their bearing every few hours. It wasn't luck, it was a real, demonstrable technique, and Erik used it across a 3-year, largely solitary survey of a coastline that nearly killed him, overwintering alone through Arctic conditions, pushing as far north as Snæfell and west across the Davis Strait. When he returned to Iceland in 985, he'd found habitable land. But he also made a choice as calculated as anything in the sagas. He named the place Greenland. It wasn't true. Much of it was ice. But an inviting name draws settlers where an honest one might not, and it worked. Roughly 25 ships sailed with him the following year, carrying several hundred colonists. Only 14 completed the crossing. They founded farms along Greenland's sheltered fjords, eventually numbering over 600, spread across 3 settlement clusters, with Erik's own farm, Brattahlid, becoming the colony's social and political center. Erik the Red is a difficult man to sum up cleanly. He killed men in blood feuds and was formally outlawed twice. He was also brave enough and skilled enough to sail into water that had turned back or killed other explorers before him, and to found something that outlasted him by nearly 500 years. The Norse Greenlanders built churches almost from the start, farmed, adapted their diet to include seals as the centuries wore on, and left behind roughly 600 farmsteads that archaeologists still study today. Then, sometime after a wedding recorded at Valsey Church in 1408, they vanish from the written record entirely. When Europeans returned to the region 3 centuries later, they found only ruins. What happened to them is still genuinely disputed. Drought, not cold, may have starved their grasslands. Rising seas may have flooded their best farmland. Some researchers think they died where they stood. Others note how few valuables were left behind and suspect they simply left. No single answer has won. The land Erik named as a lie to lure settlers outlived him by centuries, and even now, no one is entirely certain how its story ends.